Hola, and welcome to another episode of The Inner D. This is actually the last episode of season one, so this is the season one finale of The Inner D. And so, what I kind of want to do, which I kind of done similar before on another show, was kind of recap everything I've sort of talked through this season. So, when I started the season of really the show, um, obviously I thought I was just making episodes talking about moments, telling stories, reflecting on things that are already happened. But looking back now, every single episode was me trying to understand something, understand that I was still in the middle of living. None of this was really, oh, I figured it out and now I'm explaining it to you. This season was more or less of me thinking out loud, I would say. And I think that's what makes this episode in particular different from the rest, because this isn't just a recap, it's me asking a different question. Who was I at the start of the season, and who am I right now? Because I would say something definitely changed. Not everything, nothing, not perfectly, but something. But I guess to understand, I'll take it back from the beginning. Um, Back in episode one, I would say that was one of the hardest things I've ever talked about, especially publicly, because it wasn't just a story. It was a moment where I felt like everything was heavy on my heart, like sort of like I was carrying thoughts I didn't feel safe saying out loud. Because I would say, for the most part, freshman year was supposed to be exciting, especially for me. New freedom, new people, a new version of myself. But what nobody tells you is that you don't leave your mind behind from your old life. You sort of take everything with you, every insecurity, every question, every doubt about who you are and where you belong. And I remember, for me, I was showing up, smiling, talking, doing what I was supposed to. But internally, on the inside, I was struggling quietly. And I think what made that moment so heavy was I didn't know how to talk about it at the time. I didn't know how to say I'm not okay without feeling I was this weak person. So I stayed quiet, but one night after I attempted to take my life, something shifted. Not because everything got better, but not because I had all the answers, but because for the first time I was honest with God. There was no filter, no trying to sound strong, no pretending that I had it all together, just pure honesty. I think that's the part that stayed with me the most, because those scriptures I mentioned in the episode, like Joshua 1:9, Jeremiah 29:11, Philippians 4:6-7, and Matthew 11:28, they didn't magically fix everything, but they gave me something else: perspective, stability, a reminder that I wasn't alone even when I felt like I was. Looking back now, that moment, that honesty, that was the foundation for everything else I end up talking about over the course of the season. Following that, we moved into something that felt different but similar: theater, p- portraying Henry from Next to Normal, the musical. Because Henry wasn't loud, he didn't demand attention, he didn't try to control everything, he just stayed. And that sounds pretty simple, right? But for me, that was new. Because I think for a long time, I felt like I had to perform, not just on the stage, but in like actual real life. Perform strength, perform confidence, perform being okay, even when I wasn't. But stepping into that role, singing the songs that I sung, being emotionally exposed night after night on that stage, there was no hiding. And what Henry taught me was something I didn't even know I needed: presence, Not fixing everything, not forcing outcomes, not trying to control how things turn out. Just being there. And I think that changed how I move now a little bit. Not perfectly, but I noticed it. Sometimes instead of rushing, I pause. Sometimes instead of or explaining, I just listen. Sometimes instead of trying to control the moment, I let it be what it is. That's something I carry with me now, which leads into episode 3, which is probably the most honest I've ever been publicly because I finally named something that I mentioned before that I was dealing with, which was bipolar disorder. For a long time, I didn't have language for what I was experiencing: the highs, the lows, the overthinking, the isolation. I should say. I sort of just thought this is just how life feels. But as I got older, I started to realize this isn't just random. There are patterns. Sometimes the highs feel like clarity, like everything makes sense. Ideas connect fast. Confidence feels natural. For a moment, it feels like I finally figured it out. And then the lows. Not always dramatic, not always obvious. Sometimes it's just a quiet heaviness. Everything takes more effort. Thinking feels slower. Connecting feels harder. Existing in between those extremes, that's the real challenge. And then you add anxiety on top of that, general and social anxiety. Overthinking conversations, replaying moments in your head, assuming something went wrong before anything even happened. And I think what changed for me was naming it. Because when you name something, you stop fighting shadows, you stop guessing, you stop blaming yourself for things you don't fully understand. You start to observe, observe. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'll admit I'm still learning that every day. Then there were the stories that I talked about, damaged, payback, and wicked. And on the surface, they're just stories. But if I'm being honest, they're really not. They're reflections, more of me, I was more on me than anything. Exaggerated versions of real feelings. The idea of being invisible, wanting to matter, wanting to be seen. Because when you feel unseen for long enough, you start looking for ways to change that. And not all those ways are healthy. That curiosity, that shift into observation, that desire to understand people, that all comes from somewhere real. Those stories were me processing that without saying it directly. And I think writing them helped me understand parts of myself I didn't have words for yet. And then I got into something that seemed a little lighter to some, but could be heavy for others. Um, and that were crushes. But even that was deeper than I expected it to be because it really it wasn't really about romance. It was about reflection. The people I noticed, the people I admired, the people who stood out to me. They all showed me something. Sometimes it was kindness, sometimes it was confidence, sometimes it was something I felt like I lacked. And sometimes it was just a feeling. Like this person sees the world in a way that I don't fully understand yet, but I want to. And I think what I realize is not every connection is meant to become something. Some people are just meant to show you something about yourself, about myself. And I think that brings me to now because even now I'm still in that space. There are still moments when I see someone and I don't fully know what that means, where the interaction is simple. A hi, a quick conversation, a moment that could mean everything or nothing. And then my mind tries to figure it out. With things like, what did that mean? Was that intentional? Did they see me the way I think they do? Am I overthinking this? And if I'm being honest, that part of me hasn't changed. I still hesitate. I still hold back sometimes. I still wonder if I'm taking a step forward will make things better or just make things awkward. But something is different now. Before, I think I would have stayed completely silent, completely in my head about everything. Now, I at least notice it. I notice the moment. I notice the hesitation. I notice the fear. And even if I don't always act on it, I'm closer than I used to be. Then I looked back at my junior and senior years, and on paper, that version of me looked confident, involved in everything. Leadership roles, recognition, awards. It looked like I had it all together. But what I see now is I was building myself in real time. I didn't have clarity. I didn't have everything figured out. I just kept showing up, and every experience, every role, every moment added something. And when I didn't realize it at the time, and if I'm being completely honest, not everything changed. I still overthink. I still hesitate. I still feel that fear sometimes. There are still moments where I feel invisible. There are still moments where I question myself. But the difference now is I don't run away. I don't run from it the same way, I should say. I sit with it, I understand it a little more, and I give myself more grace than I used to. And if there's one thing doing the season taught me, it's that growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like being a little more honest, staying a little longer, trying again, even when you're not sure how it'll go. I didn't completely become a different person, but I think I became a bit more aware. But I think I became a more aware version of myself, I should say. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what this show really is. Not having all the answers, but being willing to ask the questions out loud, even when you're still figuring them out. And with that, that concludes this episode and this season of the Inner D. Thank you all for listening and support throughout the season, and I will see you on the next episode for season 2.